Tashidile, Khenchen Rinpoche La, Tashidile.
Hello, Tashidile.
Thank you so much for coming to give us the precious teaching on the 4 Dhammas of Gampopa to the Vietnamese and also to the international students everywhere. And we truly appreciate your presence and your teachings, and we truly appreciate the assistance of all the translators from the different languages to help us better understand the teachings of Lord Gampopa. So we truly appreciate and want to thank you from the bottoms of our heart. And we want to thank you everyone from everywhere in the world for joining us today as well. And also thank you, Christy, for organizing this. And we would proceed with the teaching. Dạ, thưa tất cả các đạo hữu, chúng con đã nói lời tri ân đến Khenchen Nyima Gyaltsen Rinpoche đã nhận lời thuyết giảng về 4 giáo pháp của tổ Gampopa cho chúng ta ngày hôm nay, với lại sự thông dịch của các thông dịch viên từ các ngôn ngữ khác nhau trên thế giới để giúp cho chúng ta có thể hiểu được giáo pháp của Ngài qua những cái ngôn ngữ khác nhau. Vì hôm nay là ngày vía của tổ Takmochupa. Chúng con xin cảm ơn tất cả rất là nhiều và cảm ơn Christy đã thu xếp cho cái chương trình này nó được thành tựu. Bây giờ thì chúng ta sẽ bắt đầu với lại buổi giảng pháp. Xin cảm ơn cả nhà.
So we need the prayer book, Khenchen.
Maybe short.
Oh, short. I show, then you pick the one you want to change.
Oh, yeah. Đang có chuyện gì đó?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sanjin Chudang Chojin Chonam Lai Chanchu Pardu Dane Josuen Dage Jin Namjin Dola Penjira Sanjin Rumbar Shoy Sanjin Chudang Chojin Chonam Chanchu Pardu Dane Josuen Dage Jin Su Jimbe Sunam Jin Dola Penj Sanjin Rumbar Shoy
Ina. Khenchen.
Moi namga da nyambe simjen tamjen dewa tan dewen jodan dembra churje donga dan donge je jodan chewara churj donge mebe dewa dan mandra wara churj nyeren chadan nyedan churj Danyam la nebra churanje mai namga danyam be simjen tamjen dewa dan deven jut dembra churanje donge dan donge je judan trebra churanje donge mebe dewa dan mendra vara churanje Nyeren chadan nyedan charve danyam la nebran churje Chanse wadan chujen shabatan jesu yeran gujen surwa ye gewa chungse tamchen dage chanchu chengo Sajin Bujun Chujin Medon Revelin Yede Jimban Sanji Xinglai Migdin Purvan Din Droga Namdo Shindun Jumbar Woman Gurun Dev Dragenna Mandala Bardeza So Nghe thì siêu khổ đùa.
Lasso Godula.
Kanshi Guru Jansun Jesurun Shankara Gavala Joran Zebe Gaju Rinpoche Jeba Nambra Thave Jen Senlab Je Chujen Jasu Shenpe Yendrase Meje Jen Manam Jase Vayanwa Lanje Lama Thamba Namla Chan Zarjen Chunda Jabzan Jiva Chenjen Labran Zendo Su Indurjin Chaman Delwa Na Rinjiten Gaten Samden Zave Lama Shiva Zaju Lama Yedam Chuzong La Survan Deso Da Ju Chenje Ba Zo Sanje Kandur Mungo Barden Lamarash Tukjeran Shen Tarve Lam Damba Yongzen Shinyin Namla Gushan Zir Lada Lame Memje Wangbo Dan Jarjin Lazo Chuje Chola Chawa Jeba Sanje Sonra Rabde Shijen Deve Juru Jurva Tedan Cheje Tambe Chunyin Baryan Drishi She Aya Tani Tomar Danganzu Chu Sheba Nyemba Tena Shin Chu Samba Gomba Da Kante Chi Chewa Inayang Tendegi Chu Te Jiru Tene Namba Sanje Begi Chu La Roya La Tene Jamru Yang Taba Ji Gu Yorwa Tene Ti Tola Chu De Tene Tikchen Chu La Robra Cheba La Tene Samba Ja Chewa Chanchu Ge Sem Sayada Te Gu Yorwa Te Yendu Zane Da Jamru Dan Simji Ni Dan Rewe Tene Chu La Tueba Dan Samba Dan Gomba Kante Ji Chewa Inayang Tene Jiru Nangbegi Chu Habardo Tene Tiba Chimbu Chu Oda Tene Ji Chao Tu Yores
So first in the beginning, whenever we listen to a Dharma teachings or explain a Dharma teaching, or we reflect on the Dharma, we meditate, we practice on the Dharma. In general, for the practice to become a Buddhist practice, we first must take authentic refuge. And then in addition, in order for this Dharma to become a Mahayana Dharma, we must cultivate a vast intention, intention of bodhicitta.
This one?
Lasso Khenchen la.
Oh yeah, that in the Induzane, the train Tangaran Sundana Chudo Samatane, Taji Zamling Sacho Kansa Netane Nyamdun Zomne, then Terengi, that Mesegi to Chende, then Anzuchi Chug Tone, that Sunzi Chiag, that to Sutinesi Chadi Ures.
Ina, you're on mute. Ina. Ina.
No, not here. Khenchen, can you wait? Maybe it not be out.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Khenchen Rinpoche, it now lost the signal. I cannot contact her. So I just call Sonam. Sonam, you join the Zoom and translate for you.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now she's coming.
Ina is in.
Oh, Ina in?
Yes. She just come to Zoom.
No, let me.
Hello. I'm sorry for.
It's okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I changed the location. I think my signal didn't work there.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Shall I repeat what I said first? Or
Yes.
I repeat, yeah. Yeah. So whenever we listen to a Dharma teaching, or we explain a Dharma teaching, or we reflect and practice the Dharma in general, in order for this practice to become a Buddhist practice, we must begin with an authentic refuge. And then in addition, in order for the Dharma to become a Mahayana Dharma, we must also cultivate a vast motivation of bodhicitta. So if we listen, reflect, and practice the Dharma with refuge and bodhicitta as the basis, then in general it becomes a Buddhist Dharma practice, but in particular a practice of the Mahayana.
Tene da tereng tene ngarang su ta mixegi tene da jik tüchen cheba jinje chagi yorwa jire tene cheba marngöge tene nishunga yin tene jedang kin kanroge tüchen senta namju yongda tene jirwa tene chebarudu da terengi tüsoyonjago jina tene ngarang su da ji gajugi tene ji chunggotago gaju tutoy tanzo kin jungkong tene parden pamo chobegi gongzo chumburgi nimo tene ji chayungo yorwa tene zane da tereng peche paru gongzo chumburde tingma jejang ngapchu ngachik bade chandu yorwa tene parun dene lo jejang ngapchu ngachik zamjin rogo yore tene zane da tendege tuye chebar chinjires.
And in particular today it's a very special anniversary, a special day, a holy day. It's the 25th day of the lunar calendar, which is the Kini day. But in particular, also we commemorating today great Mahasiddha of the Kagyu lineage, that is Pamo Dupa. We are commemorating his paranirvana, and today marks the 851st year since the paranirvana of Pamo Dupa. So it's a very special day.
Tende indu zane da kaseng hamane tandanganzo kisti namjel da konzogi tene da padrugin den chuni motela tene chuji siya tene ji thari chi yin sen song tene ngeda peche Gampopa ki chuji de ji xie janas o tene ji shuayin ten te indu zane ten trengarang da ji tusan tene ji tola tene yang ji chuyan da be za chenbo nyame Gampopa ki tene ji chechu tumong ma yin ba tene tabu chuji seya da de shuya ki tene kokap tene ji yin ba re.
And also yesterday, the other day, Christy and so forth, organized the commemoration offering to Pamo Dupa. And so since the teachings now coincide with this time, I thought I would like to speak about a Dharma that was taught by Gampopa. And I feel that this particularly now is a very precious and important Dharma to practice and to reflect upon. So therefore today I have the opportunity to speak about the 4 Dharmas of Gampopa.
Tende indu zana da jida tene pamo chubegi number tarwa tana shoke tangarang zo bena shachogi jarakabla ina shoke rwa tende tene jamgun dorjinchang jimbun choge tene beji parugi namtar jachimbo ji tene kalu nangswa o tende indu zane tene mikse ji parugi namtar kola shiragi na tene ji shumugo wa tene ji.
And so now in the east part of the world, it was in the morning. And so this morning, we have heard about the life story of Pamo Dupa. His Holiness Vajradhara Gyaltsen Rinpoche, he already gave us vast instructions and explained to us Pamo Dupa's life story. And so therefore, there is no need for me to go into a life story again at this point.
Tene tati indu zane tajik ti tone anzo pamo chubegi jida chewegi yunden ti tsuji yang jue jaba ina tela tene ngaranzo tsamala ji yang jik pamo chubegi samwek sumgi yunden tuzu jik tenba ina tene tela tene lamala tegu je yungurwa lamala tegu je wa ina tene chalabde rangshingi njungro ya tene indu zane tene dordu ji tene pamo chubegi ta jik miksegi chichu kashiye ji tene shuna samba tene jins.
So then if I thought of just mentioning a few of the qualities, the greater qualities of Apamodrupa, because if we recollect the qualities of Apamodrupa's, his outer, inner, and secret qualities, then faith and devotion for the Guru arises. And when faith and devotion arise, then the blessings will naturally enter our mind. So therefore, I thought of briefly mentioning some of the special qualities of Apamodrupa.
Today in this one, today Joban Chiden Songonge, that Nadang Karasum Barsana, Lama Te, Lamegita, Guje, Serva, then the Jingo Pump Vegi, Mo, Chugure, then number Lungure, then in around Solata Jigbe, Chu, Sabat and Jacheva, then the Jigsuna, teach and Trugure, then they get some Tademe Mote, Mo Niku, then the Chad, what thing is on it, Dongo Pamutrovati. Gujige Dani Teneji Imbare. That Tendegi Gujige Dani Gi Lama Tenzul Lama La, turning around to Gichi Lama de Be Kangiru Nashinji, Re Sondo Jobanji Songongi. Lama Kangiru Nashin Luzan and so Kangir Ridema Chode, Jing Chabatensuma Shune, Choding around so long to Guyana. Tene Taji Mugi Nyima Nashin Mushu Chimboji Shargo Res. Tendu Nyima Shu Chimboji Sharwaina, Kanri the Ma Shune, then it chug Jun the Ma Yone, Chulongs to Tuya Yungruva, Tinanshi, Naranzo Mugugi Nyima Tepe Shu Chimboji Bartuaina, then it tell a tene, Lamegi Guji Kanri Tene, Chenlabgit Jun the Naranso Tobire, then it Jetang and so Lama Jisu Temba, saying the Zane, Lamegi Tenichi Gui Yunten, Sungi Yunten, Tugi Yunten. Or Tenso Teneji Yani and the Tenhati, the Kechishun Roji, Lamen Nanjugan Nanaya, Lama Tensun Rodi, Kusum to be Yunten, but the Kechishu in Batinji Chati Yurua.
Now, Jigten Sumgön said in the fivefold path of Mahamudra, he spoke about the four kayas of the Guru. And so the essence, Apamodrupa's essence is the Dharmakaya, and the appearance is the Sambhogakaya. And then his vast Dharma activities manifest are the Nirmanakaya. And the three kayas inseparable is the Svabhavika Kaya, the fourth kaya. So Apamodrupa is an embodiment of the four kayas. And so Jigten Sumgön in the song likened the Guru to a snow mountain. And if we want to enjoy the stream of water flowing from the snow mountain, we have to first cultivate devotion. Devotion is like the sun shining. So a strong sun of devotion must first arise. And this sun of devotion then melts the snow of the snow mountain, and it turns into water, and which we then can enjoy. So in brief, if we cultivate the sun of devotion, then we will receive the blessings of the gurus, which is the Guru, which is like a snow mountain. So the stream of blessings will then emerge. And so that's why it is said that it is extremely important, most important, to again and again recollect the enlightened qualities of the Guru's enlightened body, enlightened speech, and enlightened mind, especially in the context of the Guru Yoga practice. It's most important to remember the qualities of the Guru's enlightened body, speech, and mind.
That in the Indusane, Danjongo Pamudrubate, Jedantene, Zo, Paji Purganangi, Lama, Mambula Denarwa, Gadambe Lama, Sajabe Lama, that tradition Gandarji, Lama Mambuchila Denaware, then Tina Tanyame Gampopa Chadi Gurua, Tin Duzane, then Yame Gampope Gunduna, Pene, Gandarji, Jo Gadambegi, Chanjugu Sem Gombegi, Mengadang, or Tina Shinto, Marbatan, Melanema, Juvegi, Chaja Chimbo, Gumbegi, Menga, or Tendegi, Menga, Yonsu, Lobati, Nyami Gambopegi, Tujula, Yova Yinguzane, then Nyami Gambopagi and Tachi, Kor, or Loman, some Jimachava Yorwa Gambopa. They nan and the zone road, then Dongo Pamotrova Chad, and the G Yungdua.
And so in Tibet, Pambudupa relied on many different lamas. He met lamas of the Kadampa lineage as well as the Sakya lineage, and then his main guru became Lord Gampopa. And when he then was in the presence of Gampopa, he received all the instructions. First, the instructions on bodhicitta, how to cultivate bodhicitta according to the Kadampa lineage, and then also the essential instructions on Mahamudra from the lineage of Marpa and Milarepa. So Gampopa possessed all of these lineages, which he then passed on to Pamodrupa. And Gampopa had an inconceivably vast assembly of disciples, and one of his main disciples among them was Pamodrupa.
Today in this Gampopa, then Ndunla, Tandro Pamodrupa pen, and it's Damgat and Chasang, just saying, the nation is Juwe, then Nyima and the song the Watan, the Jiten Sungungi, Song Javik, and Pardugi teach you a subtunala. Pardugi in the Dajilam Cher says Dawa, Dajilam the Cherwa. Take it in a Damnagi, Lorduna, Carson Yorosana, Yame Gambopegi, then Yamachila, Koranget in Lome Zote, Tanda Loben, Gombawa, say at you race on the one, Tabu Mocheta, Homa Zochi, Gombawa, say at you. That Tabu Moche Carson Barson, Homage in that and that Churanzo, Mahon Pala, that Dangat and Mangchewa, the Lobon Gombavets and Shu as Tasani Churanzo, Sung Chute, Lobon Gombavent and Shu as and then Tabu Mochegi, Flomatanzoma, Telejikan and the one. Then it take also Gombo Pamo to begin or the Nayan and Lobon Gomba Kundun, Damashu Bure, Gonchene, and the Damashu Alapea Nangi Watari. The Indian Tabulumbuchegi, Padula Carson or Churan Kong in the Shumogos. Churanla, Damatanzo, near take it into Churan, Lobon Gomba Kundunet, and mix it Damat in the Shugu Mares and so on the way. That they do Carsona, G. Munegi, Maon Pala, Nyami Gamboa, Korang, Gui, good sub, Sungi, Sunsub, took it to some Davote, Gombo Pamotra Chayum, you do Zane, then Tijum Sengi, that Churan aids animation does and Shugu Mares and Otation and Sumegi, Lord Jutin de Yungudua.
And so he received all the instructions, essential instructions from Gampopa. And so one day, there's a story that came that is also documented in the Bardo teachings by Chigden Sumgen in his collection of profound Dharma and how to take for enemies as the path. And so one day, so Gampopa spoke to his principal disciples, and he advised them he said, in the future, you should receive instructions from Gopawa, and Gopawa also was one of his main disciples. So he said, in the future, you should go and receive all the essential instructions from Gopawa. And so then Pamodrupa thought to himself, so I also must go. I must also go receive instructions from Gopawa. And so then he made preparations to go there to receive instructions. But then Gampopa said to him, not you, actually, because I'm going to give you all the instructions. There's no need for you to receive them from Gampopa. And so he said that because Gampopa was to become, Pamodrupa was to become Gampopa's regent of his representative of his body, of his speech, and also his mind. And so for this reason, Gampopa felt it wasn't necessary to receive any instructions other than from himself.
Tene tenanjin tene nyame Gampopa kunyangelen dakala modela tene loma chama la kharesung barasana ta tereni songde churan joge tene ji damga hangma tende shuya yena tene damga yongsu jobate pamu jube tene kambabe ndeni shugures geshi kambasayda paudu kambarwa tene inde taburu moji geshi kambezan shuas 강에서나 나담 코니라스 다 답을 뭐지 코랑당 냐메 다단데 파모 주반이라 체버르데 베지 따 나주 짜여와 짜던데 베 차시 자탐발라 시작에게 차점에 체버르 메 나주니라 된데다 간다르지 왕도의 연된 초 탐제는 냠바인 근데 인상 주랑도 되는 마음 발라 다 담가 상마든서 차상인데 되는 공연되는 쉬아스나 되는 감보바 그냥에는 나갈라마들 근데 지는 샤침도 숨바레스
And then just before Gampopa passed into Paranirvana, he said to his disciples that from now on, if there is any other instruction that you need, you should receive them from Geshe Kampa. So that's how he would refer to Pamuduba, because Pamuduba was from Kam. So he called him Geshe Kampa. And he said that's because the two of us, so Gampopa and Pamuduba, are one and the same. There's not the slightest difference. Even if you, it is just like even if you were to like split a strand of hair 100 times, you will still find no difference. So our realization and of abandonment and realization are all completely equal. And therefore, in the future, you should receive any additional instructions from him. That's what he said. And then he passed into Paranirvana.
다 근데 인도산에 간다르 냐메 Gampopa 주베 꾸든 갑소양 와다 지금 원에 로맨은 조고 다 투세지 차인고와 근데 공반양에는 대베 갑소양 근데 다단데 다보는 제기 자서데다 파모트 같은데 지 나와래 다 근데 전에 변하지 자섭랑 나솔나야기 점센도데 가르스나지 다 갑테도 변나 파모트와데 벤줄롱주 침부 유비 점센토네야 자섭도 그와 말에 메즈부 유비 점센토네야 자섭도 그와 말에 또 가르스나지다 되바 삼바 디 나네야 라버도 나랑서 가지반다지나 드네 냠레 젤랍기 주바 조 난케지르와 데인디 자네 예주 밀레게 송징나 가르송여스나 레총발라 버스 다데드 밀라레베게 레총발라 버송발에 간사나 던주게 댄산 젠드나 시글마다 던라드 송도와 아주 가주베게 또바 던주게 댄사데 문에 지금 제약은 되바요나 지순 제약 되바요나 근데 측지부 담아데 소 던냠랭게 토라 어다 상을 야부시 땅 고미야부 잡 냠랭야부 남고레 송도와 대인도 전에 가주게 되네지 또바 던주게 다지 댄산 징켄스나인다 자sab세야 된소데 조 냠랭 랑게 토는 로요와 근데 인도 전에 되는 냠랭 Gampopa기야 어다 지금 좀 파모트바데 자sab도 나순나야 좀 센데오데 된솔
And so when Gampopa was alive, Pamuduba, among his many disciples, was really his main heart son. And so Gampopa made Pamuduba his regent or representative, his heir. And so what is the reason for appointing him to this position as before he passed into Paranirvana? It was not because Pamuduba was really wealthy or rich, and it's also not because Pamuduba was like a really like kind of let's say like an impressive person. But what is the real reason? It was because he had internalized all hearing and reflecting, and in particular the practice. According to in the Kagyu lineage, this lineage is really the lineage of practice and blessings. And for example, Milarepa once said to Rajungpa, he said, son, if you want to actualize the meaning of the ultimate lineage do not look at words, but look at their meaning, understand their meaning. So if you really wish to understand the ultimate realization of the ultimate lineage, you have to engage in practice. You have to incorporate it into your mind. So don't just focus on the words. And so this is really the reason why Gampopa appointed Pamodrupa as the regional representative, is because he had cultivated, actualized all the realizations of the ultimate lineage. And that really depends on his realization that came from personal practice. So that is the reason why he was appointed as Gampopa's regent.
다 벽이 나라마지 토마를 솔드인케스그와 우추야데 네 마르발로사네 우추나마와 이나야드네 지다 데네마 마르발라야 로마 섬지메 제베 주요레 데나심 제좀 말라라야 로마 섬지메 제베레 데네 냐메 감보발라야레 어텐데 레데 이나야드네 까주세야 다 뺑고네기 자침보 차야한다오데 다보까주스네 베지 찹침보 찬로야데 저 제시원도데 파주게 되는 텔레라 되는 중앙에서는 송거와 남준 로주던스나 나데 무연내선도 지레 단단데 남준 가르세 룩순도 지 벽이 가르세야 룩소요르스나 르 강리데 아주 강을 못 치세요와 강을 못 치데 드네 베지 벽이 난게다 지초 중콩도데 드네 강을 못 치던 소마운데레스 베티나신도 가죽이 저토 자속인 중콩도데 파두게 된사된 송도와 티인도 전에 문에게지 롱고 파무트바 되긴 틀레라 때네 드는 문에 가죽이 배 찹침보 차송하다 근데데 무연내수 로주기 돈에고 라트윈도지 차용고요와 어떤데지래.
And so regarding the Kagyu lineage and its origin in Tibet, it was first established in Tibet by Marpa. And Marpa himself had an inconceivably vast assembly of disciples. And among them mainly there was Milarepa. And also Milarepa himself had many disciples. And among them his main disciple was Gampopa. And so however, the master that really caused the Kagyu teachings to spread vastly was really Pamodrupa. It was through his enlightened activities that the tradition of the Kagyu lineage truly became widely spread throughout Tibet. And so it is said that, so just like on the mountain, the Kailash mountain, and together with the Manasarova lake in Tibet is the source of all the water, the rivers in Tibet. Likewise, the source of the ocean of Kagyu teachings is this monastic seat of Pamodrupa. It's his enlightened activities. So it is really Pamodrupa's enlightened activities that caused the Kagyu teachings to spread vastly inside of Tibet. So this is how the story goes.
nanzuji dang humegi lorjugi tone samnuji tangyu zane 단단히 롱고 파모 주베기 로마 다조 저번지 된 송군 차용 거와 근데 저번지 된 송군 꾸드인저 지가 상당히 잡아 있나 드네 배지 땅간조 벽이 롱발라 가르쳐 소요르스나 르탐진 종게 르바 탕탐진 종게 탕바스네 간데 르다 탕용수조와데 종게 드네지 곰냠네 난케 르초겐 300의 강송을 로주든데 시야도와 다 된대게지 대한국 무연내선도 지금 로지 돌아 송연 거를 대인도 전에 변한지 된 송군 끝에 내라 배연도 전에 니마 찍거든 좀 티랑에 파주 초 다지 랍제당 대난신한테 강들라 소반은 참는 땡땡게 참바텐데 니마 찍라 봄지다 트투 라스지 니마 찍라 파초 이제라 땅 로지든데 송연도와 딩무연내선도 차기도와 대인도 다 텐데게 배진 틀레슈 첨부 제약이 자원로도 수로 도요에서는 드는 정보 파모 주바라 도용 거와 텐데 인도 전에 원에 봐주셔야 돼. 제 가르쳐 그래. 가지고 충분한지 차대야 텐데 오지 인게서래.
So, for example, also when we think about now going back to the in the old days of Pamodrupa, then Pamodrupa's main disciple was Jigten Sumgön, and it is said during that time in Tibet, all the mountains were Drikung mountains, and all the plains were Drikung plains. That is because they were inundated by practitioners who engaged in a mountain retreat or practice. And so, for example, at the later, toward the end of Jigten Sumgön's life, when he was in Drikung Til, in a single day, he would send over 160,000 disciples to various locations such as Lapchi and Mount Kailash and so on, in order to meditate just in one single day. So this is an actual true story. So for this reason, since these were his disciples, we can really say that the vast activities of the teachings really trace back to his guru Pamodrupa, and so that's why he really is like the source of the spreading of the Kagyu teachings.
테네테나신 파주게 되는 로마 네파 되는 루바까지라 선호타와 있나 되는 루바때 매 바르숨 세다 저때 남카게 깔만하지스 루바 되는 매 tenzo데 단단디 답에 사게 되는 매도나지스 오다 되나신 루바 파르스는 답에지 루베기 되는 양지 취에 파지 달술라 선호타인도 전에 되는 배제지 잠불랭게 매체가 돼 루바까지 배치 공수도 관로지 차수는 로주인데 소양도와 노티인도 자는다 텐데게 직temba 자침보 차야기 좀 센도데 자와 투산도거든 동고 파모주바로와 오다 텔라소베 간다르지 파르기 로마 젠다 젠에 파주베 간다르까지 삼주 매자바지 종아래 어티인도다 단다 버도 배치 물로 제자하자게 되는 나라 되네 냠에 다보까지 베게 템바데 초지 삼제 탐제를 참줘야 돼. 되네 지 단단데 다보기 물로 조 농고 파모주바다. 되나신도 되니 까마바 두숨 쳔발라서바다. 된대기 로마 텐조게 되네 가딘다. 텐조게 되네 dakjena 되네 중시바 된대지 인도자네. 되니 원내기 나랑 저기지 가딘 지수 ten고에 백해진 못된대지 차용도 된나네야 하버도 딱 공도시와나지는 농고 파모주바데 다지 템바다 심쟁게 되는라 펜도 슈 친구 연계 된 지다서 그 가서 줄룩지 사바지 곧 베르샤와 잠마인바 어다 줄룩 주바다 제바다 다르신 제발라서바다 근데 용야데 농고 파모트베게 되는 투지 라테네 종대 같은데지 임바래.
Then also Pamodrupa, among his various disciples, he also through his disciples, the Drukpa Kagyu lineage was founded. And so in the Drukpa Kagyu, we have a threefold division of the higher, the lower, the earlier, the later, and then the in between. And it is said that these masters have appeared as many as there are stars in the sky. For example, the lower Drukpa lineage is said to be like the flower growing in the earth, from the earth. And so in this way, then the Drukpa Kagyu lineage has spread, and it is said during that time that like half the world really was all Drukpa Kagyu, and that is all due to the immense activities of Pamodrupa. And then many of his other disciples started the various lineages of the Kagyu. And so now that has been about over 800 years ago. And so Gampopa's teachings really spread in the 4 main and the 8 intermediate directions. he had a vast assembly of disciples who engaged in vast activities, for example, also the Karma Badusum Kempa and so forth. So all of these activities really trace back to Pamodrupa, and that is why it is very important that we also remember his kindness. And because Pamodrupa really brought an immense benefit to the Buddha's teachings and also to all sentient beings. And the lineage that he promoted is not just some kind of lineage or teaching that he kind of invented, that he made up and then increased, but it's a teaching, a tradition that really possesses an old lineage. And this is the lineage that he then propagated throughout Tibet. So that is all due to the blessings and the kindness of Pamodrupa.
Tende induzane tandandi da kongsa Dalai Lama kunting ngabe ke tene pyoge lorju jigur tinla kare sonyore se induzane tene kaju ki temba the tang kaju ki temban jingken ki jiude penna naksal tubu najin res sing naksal be tubu najin de na ne sing gi jarpo tabe paksam gi junsing najin de sucha yorsana tene rongo phamudrupa de sondawa kasana phadula tene tene be kaju de jachembo thang oda chapchembo tene ji tile je yongdu zane tene tendegi jumsen thone songyong go yorwa o de yongdu zane ta tenzo de den ganzo phadu ge tene ji samasung ge yende jesu tenya da zo tene de ji thone samdang go yosares.
Also in the Tibetan history, it is that the fifth holiness, the Dalai Lama, he actually praised Pamodrupa, and he said that the Kagyu teachings and those upholders of the Kagyu teachings are like a thick forest. And then within this forest, and which tree is the exalted tree or the wish-fulfilling tree? It would be Pamodrupa. And it is because through Pamodrupa, really, the Kagyu teachings have spread extensively. His enlightened activities were truly vast. So this is what the fifth Dalai Lama had said. And so when we think about the qualities of Pamodrupa's three secrets, and then this is how we should reflect on it.
Tende indu terengi töde da tanji shiwana jin Pamodrupa gungba zobegi tene ji tunchu tende ji ke yondu zane tene ti nimo terengi jiden cheya ge chedo tene Gampopa songbe chuji de ji da damya nge tende ji damka chebarwa tabu chuji ji shigi yin sayaji adi ji we jumsen de wote karensana tene tanji Gampopa ge da ji pulu puchen tamchege nane tene zoode rongo Pamodrupa yinba Tene jartabdo wangkurwa teyan rongo Pamodrupa yindu zane tene nyame Gampopa ge song tabu chuji tege tene rongo Pamodrupa jirengi chubaji pujawa yina tene yanchi karasugure ku tenrigi nengaji yang yongsare tene labordo tabu chuji te pechi chu za chenpuji cha yungu yore tene yindu zane tene shekuye jumsendo tene ji yins.
And so it is because today we are commemorating Pamodrupa's passing into paranirvana. I chose these particular teachings of the four Dharmas of Gampopa in order to remember him, to commemorate him. And that is because of the many disciples following Gampopa. Pamodrupa was his main disciple, and also he was appointed to become his regent. And that is why I felt it was very auspicious on this day where we commemorate Pamodrupa's paranirvana to give a teaching on the four Dharmas of Gampopa. And also the four Dharmas of Gampopa are a very, very precious Dharma. So that is the reason why I chose to give this teaching.
타부 추지에서 인도 전에 남중간서 다지 만보지 공용 용대로와 파다도 전에 즉 이시마도 요마와 로 추순로와 세야지 추 람든로와 소야지 람 출바 serwa 소야지 출바 예시 손 차와 세다 되게 찌기 시대라 다 타고 주제에서는 소용 거요와 대인도 전에 파다윤도 그 찌용용 지기 찌기제대 있는 되게 찬의 상당히 전에 되니 다단디 저번지 된 순간에 감범랑라 타고 주지긴 제와지요래 다딘 제와데 배치행 안주 롱마 같이 탭제기 되네 로송랑 되네 안주 다 계주르게 초바지요래 네마 티 코나베 주르든지 제요래 지시나 뎀조고 통용거래 칸다르 디나라 가르송요래스나 되네 타고 주지세야 되게 나라 산지게 송배 추구본부 제치지도 용수도 같은 데요 대인도 전에 타고 주지의 배 자치모인 성지된 송고 내지 송난다 어때인도 전에 거기 책용용지리데 대배 사진 자체와 내지 차용요레스.
So we've all heard about the four dharmas of Gampopa. So it seems that it's very concise. There's only 4 lines. So it says first, bless me so that my mind turns toward the Dharma. Then bless me that this Dharma becomes the path. And bless me that this path dispels confusion. And grant blessings that this confusion may dawn as primordial wisdom. So it seems that the words are just few. But if you really think about the meaning of these words, actually in the collected works of Jigten Sumgön, there is a commentary by Jigten Sumgön on the 4 dharmas of Gampopa. And actually last year, the Gyaltsen Stiftung sponsored the translation of this commentary. And so we have this translation group where I was giving teachings on this text. And it has been translated and probably will soon become available. And so in there it says, Jigten Sumgön says that the 4 dharmas of Gampopa really represent the essence of the 84,000 teachings of the Buddha. And that is why the 4 dharmas of Gampopa are so precious. While the words are few, the meaning is vast.
다티 인도 전에 드네 타단데다 타고 주지 되게 나라 단념에 나선데 가담당 차칭기 드네 주베게 추 찍든 제베게 드네 다지 주바 추 징지르게 라마지르와 대인도 전에 드네 냐메 감포팔라 조 가담베게 드네지 향축의 샘 곰베게 맹아양 차창화지 유대바 대나신도 종공 가주베게 차자침부 맹아양 차창화지 유용도 전에 드네 텐데기 좀 생각 때네 단다 타부 주진대양 드네 까차 니게다 주직도 주베게 드네 단단데 드네 주직 차되게 요레스.
And so also within the teachings of the 4 dharmas of Gampopa, it really these teachings really are a confluence of like 2 rivers, and that is because the pillars Gampopa, he on the one hand possessed the lineage of the Kadampa, and then also the lineage of Mahamudra, which is just like the confluence of 2 rivers. So he had received the essential instructions on bodhicitta, the cultivation of bodhicitta according to the Kadampa lineage. And then also according to the Kagyu lineage, he received all the essential instructions on Mahamudra. So he really is like the confluence of the various lineages, and therefore the 4 dharmas of Gampopa also represents the confluence of these 2 rivers.
Pena tabu chu yegnane chu 당부숨데 조드네 조 좀글람그림바테 송영교와 로 추순도와 송야대기 지우 중국일람 그 람든로와 소야 되기 지운딩 람 출바스와 서야 되기 지우 첨보 근데 지금 타마 다부 추진한 게 즉 타마 근데 출바 이 시순 차와 소야 되기 근데 종공 가주베게 자자침을 맹아 어떤데 지금 맹요와 근데 인도자네 근데 지기 시본데 원에게 지배 찹침보 근데 냠랭게 내가 차상 좀 되게 되네 다지 주의 근데 지 차되기 요래스
And so the 3 or 4 levels of the 4 Dhammas of Gampopa represent the different mental capacities of the practitioners. So the first 3 represent the 3 capacities, and then the 4th is Mahamudra. So the first one is may the mind turn towards the Dharma, and that is related to the individual with a lesser mental capacity. And then secondly, may the Dharma become the path. That corresponds to a practitioner with a medium mental capacity. And then may the path be free of confusion. That corresponds to a practitioner of the higher mental capacity. And then the last verse, the 4th verse that says, may confusion dawn as wisdom. That refers to the essential or pivotal instructions of the Kagyu Mahamudra teachings. So in this way, these 4 lines have become really well known, and they really represent the essence of all of our practice in the practice of the Dharma.
That in Duzane, Jita, the Nangaran, Daji, Korvenala, Korwa Toma Mebane, Tandabodin Cham, Sungurwa, Nazum Korvenala Daji, Yang, Yang do Cham de Yure, then Tendo and Chambe Kauso Yang, Daji Jidangi, Medan, Lai, Leandro, Tobaina, Devates, Shu Chigi Yure, in an Yansongi Nella Sovala Chesawaina, could do a Pansameva Narium Yure. Then case in Tori Penam, Mil Lutendo, which is the Jiwa Lens Hawaii, Taji Dungheg throw out in a joint chigmendo, Tichiduzane, Jesun Melesumban Jinre, Chubu Tamje, you doings, but you know Lonjun Zom Dengue, you will do yores, Pongo Tamje, Meduins, Tambu written to someone, maybe do yores, that thing to Sane, Kantako Dunghegi, Rik Chewa. Ko nartegi yobati ngaranso soso gi nyamnyong thone ko chu yung yorwa tin da tende gi dunghe nyonya gi jumsen ro de khar samutang gi zane teni ngone ji ngaranso gi samutang dang ji mewa tenan jin do lega chedan ji mewe gi jumsen ji rwa te ma do kharse ko ji jum mewa jen mewa ji le teni ngaso dunghe nyong yo marwa tende yin du zane teni ji dunghe yongya dang kangye yongya dang 다 텐데기 좀 생각하지 제주 체험도 전에 근데 냐면 Gampopa 당단데 아무런 다르징이 나나 송바나 진레 먼저 논출게 되는 로지라 때네 근데 강에게 망보지 용되게 요레스.
So since beginningless time until now, we have been wandering in samsara. And we keep wandering in samsara over and over again. And so it is said that when one attains birth as a human or a god, then one experiences some happiness. But if one takes birth in the 3 lower realms, one experiences endless, uninterrupted suffering. But now when we just think about, for example, a human birth in the higher realms, so since we are born as human beings in the higher realms, in truth, we all know that even as human beings, we actually experience this feeling of this unsatisfactoriness or this suffering all the time, don't we? Even as human beings. And that is why Milarepa had said, the rich suffer from their possessions, the poor suffer from their lack of possessions. Everyone experiences suffering. Everyone is in the midst of a lot of suffering and torment. And we all know that from our own personal experiences. And then what is the reason? Why do we experience suffering? It is because our way of thinking and our way of acting is incorrect. We do not suffer for no reason. It's not because there's no cause or condition. There's a cause for our suffering. And so the reason why we encounter suffering and difficulties, when we really think about it, it comes down to a cause. And that's also explained by Gampopa in the Jewel on a Mind of Liberation, where he says that it's really on the basis of mistaken thought and action that we encounter many difficulties.
용약이 조조원도데 되는 감옥에 가르송 바라에서는 rinpa 당보대 되는 알아서 천디 주유를 차박서야 되려와 메천디 지부 모두 선놈은 걸어와 메천 되게 나타내는 지부지 차야 메천 되게 나타내는 다 소속이 더이나 봐 매바 차고야 소속이 녀이나 줄경 거야 다 메천 데마도 지와 치마다서 선놈 마당에 토네 되는 간소로 녀라지 용요래 스테인드산에 녀라 용약이 조조 찍대 가서는 천디 주유를 차박들에 서는 송용도와
So Gampopa taught then what is the main, the principal cause of us experiencing suffering. So number one, of different levels, he said then it is because our attachment to the activities, the affairs of this life. It is because we only think about this life. We only think about the happiness of this life. And therefore we only think about how we can get rid of our enemies and how we can protect our close ones or dear ones. We don't think about next lives, and that is why we run into trouble. So the main cause for our trouble comes down to our attachment to the affairs or the activities of this life.
대인들다 매천 디지부마도 삼노 마당와당 삼노 콜마도 바이나 tani metsin dila chi jibo tang dewo chaya la tani ngazo peta chi lega ndamanda chi sigirwa pena mechi yuna ta terengi nima jibu modo samno chuna tang meshin ki mechi yuna tanga tering jibu chanan rendu sani kar chana cha sambe chorwa chi yo sumaina ta tereng jibu ki jibu yoya chedu tani ta lega ndamanda pe chi chesana samno tangwaina yenda seya chomya 다 라소바 간다지 내가 논주기 망보지 용 텐데기 로테기 되는 간조 풍용요래 스테인자 천디 주유를 차베기 님보텔라 가르공그레 생도산에 되는 마다보 공바 선소용도 다보 다르지나나 디지도 전에 단단 간조 로 추순로와 소야지다와 로 추순로와 세야다 테레 가서나 단단 가랑 저기 론데 추순로요 말고 건지된 천디기 주유 지부는 로데요와 다 대반 주로 땅에 매진 디 지부지 중화 잠지 매뱀바 매진 딜레 제와 치마데 개체와 선을 당와 디토네 드니지 제와 치마 야보 영향은 배전체야 다 드니지 고두잖아요 드니 대라 가르고 그러서나 말한 쪽을 로데 추순 로트바지 제고레스 대송 말해
So if we are only able to think about this life and cannot think beyond this life, then so all of our activities will be geared towards being happy and being well just now in this life. So for example, a person who only thinks about today and doesn't think about tomorrow, they will just think that all that counts is that I get what I want, whatever happens tomorrow doesn't matter. So then today, whatever they do, they will do it to find happiness or gratification just temporarily on this day. And in order to get it, they will do all kinds of things. So in a more larger scale now, maybe they would go kill somebody or rob somebody and so forth. And so basically they would make many mistakes, and that would eventually cause their own ruin. So what is the antidote to disattachment to the affairs of this life? Gampopa said in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, then the mind has to turn towards the Dharma. Then we will not be attached to the affairs of this life. So right now, when the mind is not turned towards the Dharma, then all we can see is just this life. So we need to change this perspective and not just think about this life, knowing that just thinking about this life, just caring about this life is of no benefit. It's much more important to think about future lives, to ensure our well-being in future lives. And so then in order to ensure that, what needs to be done, that mind needs to turn towards the Dharma.
네 지단 간조 담단데 단 잠불랭라 고지 제와실래 메기 지소나는 촌내지는 대기요로와 대인류잔에 단대 메센데라 지부지 연구야 단대 메센데양 부숨 조과지 연구야 대 개침부로와 레데 대단 냠도 드네 양지 제와 치매의 돌아야 삼루지 땅고래 송거래 대마도베 메센데 지부지 삼루 땅내 따진 직된 취재 지부지 르데바이나 지금 메센데나라 맹님보 차야지 메센데 지불라 롱주에 첨부 차야지 디나신도 메센데 지불라 되네지 갈수다 소소라지对吧토야당 소소로 롱주 토야 근데 지부가 돈은 배전 제바이나 딘리요 말에 스테인도 전에 아직 메센데 지보당 대우 용고르데 델레양 개체와데 근데 제와 치매게 되나 삼로지 땅내 드네 따지 개와 주주야 메게와 주방야 너나 드네 베 메삼바상보지 지구에 베 개심부레스 대인도 텐데기 지 주와지 땅 투송아이나 드네 가랑 쪽으로 로데 다 추가 돌아더니 오 랩톱으로와 답에 가두이나 삼로데 추가나 랩마토바이나 양고 메신디 지부선 땅다와리 하스지 제와 치마라 선노땅 대기체도 개와룩 디바빵 삼바상보 제토바이나 드네 양고지 로데 추가 돌아 오스지 술렘로와 어텐데 인도자네 로 추슨로와 스테송바레 근데 델라 조제기 지우 충무게 된 남을 봐 송은데 와텔라
And so now, since we have taken birth in this world, as human beings, we also need to exist in the human society together with other human beings. And of course, it is important that in this coexistence, that we do experience happiness and some well-being. But then, while that is important, it's also important to think about future lives. Because even if we only think about this life, then all we will do will become a practice of the maybe 8 worldly dharmas. So then whatever we do it so that we, for example, become famous or have a good reputation just in this life, or that we become rich in this life, or that we receive praise or wealth and enjoyments just in this life. And if we just make effort to gain that, that is not enough. So even though we of course do need to have happiness and well-being in this life, but what's more important than that is the future lives. We need to think about our future lives. And thinking about our future lives, we need to then think of practicing the 10 virtuous actions and abandoning the 10 non-virtuous actions. It's very important to have a good heart, to be a good person. So if we are able to transform our mind in this way, then think in this way, then our mind has turned toward the Dharma quite well. Even though we now we might not always be in the Dharma with our mind, but at least we're not only thinking about this lifetime, and we are also thinking about future lives, and we are thinking about practicing virtue and giving up non-virtue. And if that is in our mind, then our mind has turned to the Dharma already quite well. So this is the what Student Sungön had taught in the commentary, that why it is necessary for the mind to turn towards the Dharma.
롱캔 세그로와다 근데지 메바 윤캔지 인 메차네 되는 간저 가르고 그러는데 약쇼 중나 다부추 이가데 차도 가지고 그러와 간저로 추순 로트 가지 추 람든 로트 가지 람 출바셀도 가지 주라 예시선 차도 가지 고르와 약쇼 중나 그때 마중에 있나야 근데 많다라 간저로 추순 로트 가지 네버도 고요다 남바지 이내zon데 가르스나 남베기 냠랭기 나네 냠랭 rinpoche mashu de karsana jiwu chungu gi lamram saya terwa de tanda lo chusun rowa saya de sungmen gwa de yin zane da lo chusun ro to ba ji ma cha wa yin na de ngam so nang ba yin sen bo sho xie na go xie ya me de ba ro ji xie ya ge de cha chen de pe ji ma chang wan ro ji re de yin de ne lo chusun rowa saya da dan ji shu wa nan jin re da ka du yin na yang ji je wa chi ma ma do me chen de sang no za wa ne ma dan ke de ngam so cha tu ma wa de de ska le ka bo re de yin na yang 니레니레게 되네 지금 소화가 나라 소소가 매체가 나라 그냥 지 매체는 되자마인 봐 마음과 제와 치매게 가봐야 와다지 내내 대원으로 투야 돌아 상호데스 땅 된소 돌아 되는 지 라렌데스 제도바이나 되는 간저 당원에게 낭배게 나야 야고지 추위에서래 섬섬도 로 추순으로 와서 대 기타 나야 추누고와 지우 충무게 냠내게 나야 추투고요다 때마인 봐 드네 배지 제와 치마 섬은 주는 마당 드네 배다 메신디 지부게 되네지 손에게 챘다 드네 배 드네신 슈데바이나 하고 개완도 집대바이나 드네게 개와튼 상황한테 첸디게 되네지 체도 사자와 인도산에 대우연 춘중마도 지용고 말해 드네 지우숨게 남게 좀 강기 태랑에 추고 말와 근데 인도 자네 로 추순으로 도바지 제거에 백해지 못하는지 인도 사례스
Kondag Tiri 밑에 디 직보 전에 사마탄티 봐도 고성
아야
이게 마지막으로
근데 밑에 지부선은 당네 근데 제와 치마 섬는 추니 마당와이나 드는 거랑서다 지부선게 남게 좀 강기 나나야 되는 추고 말와 인스 라바이나고 지다자 측잠로 차한도야 가주바 인스 라바이나고 측잠로 차한도야 닌 같은 데지 용거와 대인도 전에 근데 개 치슈데 먼저 로 추준 로도 같이 해야다 배 개치모레 스타지 단소 자야라 깔레다 가보 요러와 이나고 니레니레 테스트에서 텐데지 선은 당토 소와이나 드니가 로데 그냥 갈래갈래 콤리 차용도 전에 드니 건 투수고 rinrinre 야라 차도야 근데 용거와 어티인도 전에 로 추준로 와서야 돼 다지 토마르기 gond로도 로 추준로 와서야 되래 고트네 말에 근데 람트로와 세 말에 드는 트로와 예시는 차이 말에 근데 텐수 차야게 치도 당불로 추준로 와서야 되고 요러와 어텐데 인도 전에 대도라 니레니레서 노땅 다 간데서 노땅 걸 세인도 전에 저지 마다바 임바서 노땅한테 배 캐치 모레 송도와 어텐데
So now in particular, as a Buddhist practitioner, the past masters, the past gurus of the Kagi lineage, what have they, and all those who have cultivated great devotion to the practice, what have they said is most important? So now of these four, first the mind has to turn towards the Dharma, and the Dharma has to become the path, and the path has to be free of confusion. The confusion has to arise as wisdom. So we say that, but even if all of this doesn't arise at once, although of course that's ideal, at least surely as Buddhist practitioners, calling ourselves Buddhist practitioners, our mind has to really turn towards the Dharma at the very least. And only then do we actually enter the level of the lower, the being of the lower capacity. So the mind turning towards the Dharma equals the entering into the level of the lowest mental capacity. So as a Buddhist practitioner, at the very least, this is what we have to do, as to turn towards the Dharma, at least some Buddhists. Otherwise, it is just really more like lip service, calling ourselves. You can say I'm a Buddhist and so on, but that it means nothing if we don't actually have what it really takes, the qualities that it takes to really actually call oneself a Buddhist. So definitely we have to at least turn our mind towards the Dharma, which means not just seeing this life only, not only thinking about the happiness of this life, but to also think about future lives. And of course, it is a little bit difficult to always have this thought in your mind, but we should still try each and every day, day by day, to think about it as much as we can, and think not just about this life, but also think about future lives and how we can proceed from happiness to happiness in future lives. And if you're just able to even practice that a little bit, that is already excellent. And then you have really entered the Buddhist path of practice. So entering into this way of thinking is really the first point of turning the mind toward the Dharma, which is the entering of the path of the individual with the lowest mental capacity. So at least we are not only thinking about this life. No, otherwise, if we just think about this life and we don't really care so much about future life, we just think about how to make a good life in this life, and we don't think about the future at all, then we have not entered any of the even lower paths, a path of lower mental capacity. And we might say, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a Kagi practitioner, I'm a Buddhist practitioner, but then you run a danger that these become just empty words that are really then meaningless if the mind hasn't really turned towards the Dharma. So it's really most important that our mind first turns towards the Dharma. And of course, it is difficult to be completely immersed in it all the time, but on a day-to-day basis, just keep thinking about it little by little, and slowly you will form a habit. And then the time that you think about it will become longer and it improves. And so eventually your mind really has turned towards the Dharma. So that's what we really need in the beginning. That's really like the foundation. If your mind doesn't turn towards the Dharma, it is said that then also there is no Dharma that can become the path. And then there is no confusion that can become cleared away on that path. And then there's also no wisdom or no confusion that can appear as wisdom. So for all of this to be accomplished, first we have to turn our mind toward the Dharma. And for that to happen day by day, just keep thinking about it. And mainly the main way to reflect on it is, what's most important is to reflect upon impermanence.
Tene chui niba tegi chui lamdun rowa songyong dowa. Ta chui lamdun rowa songyong do zane tene tadande ta lo chui su songne mechen di jibu zamayin ba jewa chimalayang samno tangne tegi chedu gewa druba chi chungwa yinam jitan yabu rowa. Ta yina yang jewa chimala hladang mege yang chik luden rowa jibu chi toba yina yang tegi nganzong korwa chik dunghe ya tartugu marwa. 다동 고베나라 양자를 제대원 거지. 근데 야 대제외 가서 단대게 메시나신 전에 지부도 누구 참아 냠도 제대원나신 차인 거로. 대인도 전에다 림바니바들 가르고 그러서나 추 람돈도 가지고 그래 송거다. 대송도 전에 난저 추 제야 돼. 근데 메신 디지부 차야 지부기 제도 말해라. 제와 치만디 지부 차야가 제도 양 말해스. 대인도 단 지도 제고로서는 최대 코로나야 타르베게 되는 람 차도야는 배전적으로 요레스 대인도산에 다 대차야라 가르고로서는 코르웨게 되는 동해 코르웨게 내출 간데임에 전소 돌아가서 지 삼노당 검자야도 백해 전부에 송게 대인도산에 다보름 부지에게 타르쟁게 나나야 시베 대와라 차베 님불 코르웨 님이 검바 송도와 다시바 남수 단지 론 논출 예유를 라인바 론 논출 당부도 단지 슈차르와 첸딜레 차과세 들어와 달론 논출 니바데 시베 대와라 차과세 차송한다 당가 마음 발지 야고차나 제와 치마데 야고차나 삼두 다동 좀 코르웨난 게 대와라 레와 잡다와 다디 레와 되게양 다동 좀 대와 양타바 톱투 말해스 디인두 대바 뽕을 제베기 체도 가르곰고 그래서나 드님 코르웨기 니메 코로와 고란게 장신 간데 임바 코로와랑 간주 간제지는 출기 여봐 나랑 졸 동해 간제지 용기 여봐 다 된수 돌아 삼노 땅에 드니 곰고 요레스 드니지 곰 투송아이나 드니 양로 가르지 제와 치마라 매당 토리기 뢰지 토메야 팽기면도 디인도 땅문에 코와네야 탈군도 삼백이 되는 로지 제임브레스 딜로 되는지 제송아이나 드네 나랑도 추카레 제바이나양 타르베게 람차도 그러데 드네인도 추 람든도와 세 대송게 지분 딩게 냥년데 저거 가담백깔라 지분 딩게 람는 세야 되래.
Then second is grant blessings that this Dharma becomes the path. So then from there, so we have turned our mind away from this life and toward the Dharma. So we're not just thinking about this life, we're also thinking about next lives. And if we're able just even to do that, it's already excellent. But then we continue to reflect that actually, even if in the next life we are born as a god or human in the higher realm, we are still not liberated from samsara. And eventually, again, we will fall into samsara. And just like now, even as a human being, like right now, we all do experience constantly this kind of mix of happiness and a lot of suffering. So this will just go on if we do not become liberated from samsara. And so that's why we need for this mind that has turned toward the Dharma to also become the path. So we need to really actually practice that Dharma. And not just for the happiness, the well-being of this life, and also not just for the happiness of future lives, but in order to become completely liberated from samsara altogether. You have to make an effort in that purpose. And so that is then, it becomes the practice of first we proceed to the medium individual, and then the highest. So first we think about here, having turned away from the worldly affairs, we think about the suffering of samsara, the shortcomings of samsara, the nature of samsara. It's very important to think about that. Also, Gampopa said in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, so he said that the antidote to the attachment to the happiness of existence is to reflect upon the shortcomings of samsara. So in there he mentions four mistaken states of mind. And so the first one we have mentioned before already, and that is the attachment to this life. And the second one is the attachment to the happiness of samsaric existence. So that is to think that in the future, in the next life, I want to experience happiness or birth in the higher realms. But then if you think about it, actually, even though I may gain that, then I still am in samsara, and I'm still actually putting my hopes in samsara, don't I? And for as long as I have this hope, I cannot attain true happiness. So to abandon this mind, we have to reflect upon the shortcomings, the suffering of samsara. So we have to think about what is the nature of samsara, and how is it that we are confused in samsara, and why is it that we experience suffering in samsara, and so on. What kind of suffering do we experience? So if you are able to reflect, meditate in this way, then what kind of a mind arises? So then the mind that thinks, now there's no benefit in even wanting to be born in the higher realms, like as a God or a human in a future life. That's of no benefit. I must become free from samsara altogether. So when that thought arises, then the Dharma has become the path. So then you will actually engage in the Dharma practice. And so this level, according to the Kadamba instruction, said that this is the middling mental capacity.
Tene ta degi jila sumba de kare sumbarasana de songdawa lam turba serwa songge ta lam turba serwa songge zane tin turba de jedang ge tene karasana turba changmala songge marwa gab de du lam turba sangwa sayate zo karasana ngazonde ta rang jinjing loje yorwa ngarang jibu chago sangyaji ngarang za chimbo zeyaji yenda ngarang chena ngarang ke chewa zeyaji benna sozo ge tene ji lega 야분 충충지 모두 마제와 있나야 대배직다 이전다게 하고야 지도 배직 가세 있나야 즉 되게 돌아 상매게 하고야 하는 배전체야지 그래서 내가 논출지 제유나 대 수직이 되네 하 먹어와 자야는 배전체야지 이행이 되네 논출지 제용아 있나 대배 상매게 하고야를 도는 배전체야지 이제 다지 자와 상부지 두요나 대바지 매야를 돌아서는 방향다. 근데 삼성한테 제손은 연구여봐. 다 tensu 망체와데 가르서나 랑집은 젬베로 세야 되는 연구여봐. 소소자 침부제야. 대인도 근데 냠에 감보파게 된 출발레스. 대인자 람대야다 베나 텐데기 로데 삼삼 지분 링게 냠네 깔로 연구여봐. 나랑 지분 거와나야 탈고운도 삼별로지 연구여봐. 대인도 근데 지분 랭게 람름 대주라 제와 지부 그냥 팽게 말레스 가인사나 나랑 지부 탈바토는 펜도 가려요레스 가인사나 코에 난게 심전 탐제대 소속에 되네 파당 마 제용화 차다레 대인도 전에 텐소 상마 동해 용기라 나랑 지부 그러반 타나 카르펜도 요레 삼네 되네 지 삼노데 파 자체르다네 대인도 소소 지버는 제약이 로디파 슈총을 다네 되네 아직 심지에 탐제야 산재기 공방직 토바직 차고운도 거르의 동해내야 타로아직 조토 고운도 삼백되네 삼바자 침부제야 되라 되네 단단데 람 출바스러와 스는 소용 거요와 대인도 전에 되네 냠의 gampopa 타르쟁게 나라 인데송도와 시베 대화라 차베기 님볼라스 땅안좀 참자 나랑 지분 코와네 타나 삼백이 로지요와 대한 논주레스 소소 지부선마다야 돼 대기 님보라 가르 검고그래서나 잠바다 닝제 드네 장축에서나 소고 검고그래 소용도와 어텐데 인도 전에 드네지 람 출바세버 체외기 체도 가르치고 그래서나 드네지 가도에나 장라 잠배기 셈 닝제기 셈 심제 탐제데 랑게 파단자와 마단자와 oda tende tone kandarji simjenge garden yani yang tembe tone tene samu jachel tanya thela ten tadandi lam chuba sewa se de sonyong yo ten zane gadam ge lojong nangla thela tene jiwu chimbo ge lamra sna sonyong yo wa o tende re.
And then, so third is for this path to clear away confusion. And so the confusion that we speak about here is not any kind of confusion, but this confusion here refers to the self-cherishing mind, which is basically you consider yourself as most important. You think, I want to be happy. I need to be happy. I'm most important, and I'm more important than others. So what we often do is that when we do a small good thing, we definitely make sure everyone knows about it. We want everyone to know the great thing we did, even though it's very small. We make every effort. And then if we make a mistake, however, we try to hide that from others. We want no one to know what we did. But then on the other hand, if other people make just a little mistake, then we want everyone to know that. We want to make sure everybody knows the mistake they made. And then if other people do something good, then we're actually trying to diminish that and trying to hide that so that nobody knows about the good thing they did. So why do we do that? For the most part, it's because of this self-cherishing mind. It's because we consider ourselves as most important. So according to Gampopa, this is the confusion here that needs to be cleared away on the path. So now in the context of the medium capacity individual, so one wants to become liberated from samsara altogether. But that's also not enough, because when we think about it, what is the benefit of me alone becoming liberated from samsara when there still are all these sentient beings suffering in samsara, and they all have been my father and my mother and so forth. So all these beings still continue to experience suffering. So what's the use of my own liberation? And so when you think in this way, then we diminish our self-cherishing attitude. And we will not just think about our own liberation, but think about liberating all sentient beings from samsara and bringing them to enlightenment. So the mind expands, it becomes vast. And when the mind becomes vast, then we clear away confusion on the path. Gampopa also said in the Jewel Ornament of Liberation, now the antidote to the attachment to the peace, like the peaceful nirvana, or the peaceful state of existence, is to reflect on this point. So when we seek the peace of peace and happiness for ourselves, then we only want our own liberation, and we don't think about others. And that's also a mistaken thought. So what's the antidote to that thought? It is to cultivate love and compassion, to cultivate bodhicitta. So we cultivate that in order to clear away confusion on the path. In order to clear away confusion, we cultivate love for others and compassion, recognizing them to be my fathers, my mothers, my parents, remembering their kindness again and again. And by doing that, the mind expands, and then confusion on the path is cleared away. So in the Kadampa mind training, this then becomes the path of the individual with the highest mental capacity.
lam churwa serwa soyan de la jidang tanji shuwa na jin re ta ji chamba gomya da hinji gomya da chanchu ge sam gomya da tanzo sangma de lam churwa serwa chebe nyamne sen de sung go wa de din na ne ya habar do de ne nga da chanchu ge sam soya de be ke chimbo ji ga sa na ngaran zo sangma de tiba chimbo yin se la ge wa da sam ge yore nga zo tiba chimbo yin Tene be tiba chenbu nane nganzo sangha nyamne chenken yin sena da chi sosu boba chi chene nganzo rode yorwa. Da tiba chenbu yin se labya ki jumsen rawo tila nganzo samlo chi tango yorwa. Da sa pena chi tiba chenbu ki nganzo lama chi nge ten yin se labna ya. De samchi nga tiba chenbu roya des kale kaburwa. Yana nge tene tiba chenbu ki pecha tenzo nge logo yos. Tende yin sa nga tiba chenbu yin se labna ya des kale kaburwa. Di yin du zane 이제 추의 택바 친구 인백이 팽이 말와 강사 나랑 택바 친구 인바지 차도 고르와 다 강사 나랑 택바 친구 인바 차야라 가르고 그래 손은 전에 근데 저번 제대로 손고 그 공직이 나라 택바 제중 제버데 심지 손도와 대인도 전에 제 남거든 연배 심지 탐제 산적이 공방직 토바 제기 토바 쇼 300이 삼로 텐데 유연 괜지이나 텐데라 택바 친구 손거와 대인도 전에 그런 거지 chanchuge semla ta namjun lama nam pekhen chanchuge sem gomgo yore sungo yore tene ngaran soyan da ji chanchuge sem se ya tene ngado tes gajin chimborwa chanchuge sem se tes jibon roje da wa tside goha zamje gone tside be nimbo tside semla be pabuji yongdo wa ta de da zan nimbon도 be nge semna jibon도 se ya jibu ma yimbar chanchuge sem se ya de 소소 랑기 semna su jetoya jila tene 배전소 고요와 대인도 전에 텐데긴 배전 조약이 삼로직 나랑서 줄에 제바 있나 텐데게 돌은 배전지 제바 있나 tene ngaranzo lam turba serve ke tene kansaji chatu gero te yin zane ne ngone ke ji chanju ge sam tenzo thola aji namje lama na be ga chu sung ban na shin chene ngaranzo lama tenzo chanju sambare ngaranzo lama tenzo dorjin chanre te yin da tenzo ge ji chanju ge sam gonggo le hinji gonggo le sene yang ne yang do kanzo som nang de wa te yin zane tene tenzo sam na nyarwe thone ne ji soso ge nyere gen sowe gen nangla kandarji shobaya langne zongde tambopena metabe samoti staya dege tene lo chusun ro wa cha ingurwa tene de thone korwege tene ji nyoda samoti staya dege tene chu lamdo ro wa cha ingurwa tene de niman dinangla tene ngaraya dewa mende dunghe mende banajin yeyan dunghe mende bachire 나란 대원 되바나지 예한 대원 된게 지그래 근데 인도자네 내 예한라 되네지 펜바지 제마토가 있나야 너가 자와는 지금에 삼바양다 바지 제송아 있나 근데 디니마텔라 먼저 로 추소 송아 주 람도 송아 람 추바서 바지 차도 여러와 근데 인도 되는 추바 다단데 람 추바서 와서야 다 조치셔디 근데 장주게 생게 돌로 로정제야 등소인 말에
So no, regarding the dispelling the confusion on the path, we said, and as the Lama was always saying, we have to cultivate love and compassion and bodhicitta. That is the most important practice and way to dispel confusion on the path. And so many of us might know, identify ourselves, consider ourselves as Mahayana. So we say, I'm Mahayana, I'm practitioner. And we think that I am a Mahayana practitioner. Or we say that I'm a Vajrayana practitioner. And we have this confidence. We all go around really confident, thinking I'm a Vajrayana practitioner. But then, however, this thought of I am this Mahayana practitioner, that we also need to actually really think about how are we really a Vajrayana or a Mahayana practitioner. There's no point in just like saying, I'm speaking about Mahayana, or saying that I'm following a really special guru. That alone will be difficult for that alone to become Mahayana. That alone will not be Mahayana. Or if you say that I have studied and read all the scriptures, I'm reading the scriptures of the Mahayana. We can say that, but that is still very unlikely to make you a Mahayana practitioner. And so there's no benefit in not the Dharma being Mahayana, but it's the person that has to be Mahayana. We have to become Mahayana practitioners. And so Lord Jigten Sumgyön had also said in the Gongchik that the difference in the vehicles is determined by the size or the level of the mind generation. So the scope of the mind generation. So when you think that I wish that all sentient beings, limitless as space, attain the state of enlightenment. May they all attain enlightenment. If you think in this way, then your mind is really a Mahayana mind. And we always hear about bodhicitta. Our lamas always tell us to cultivate bodhicitta. They always speak about the importance of bodhicitta. But then we also have to actually cultivate bodhicitta. And we might just have heard, oh, this sound, and we hear people talk about bodhicitta, it sounds so nice. And we feel very drawn to this idea, and it makes our mind feel good when we hear somebody speak about bodhicitta. And that is good because it makes you feel happy, but it's not just about being happy right now. It's not that you just need to feel comfortable hearing this about bodhicitta, but bodhicitta has to actually arise in your mind. And for that to happen, you have to make an effort. So if one is able to make this effort and cultivate bodhicitta in their mind, then they will clear away confusion on the path. So normally I receive many teachings from our lamas on bodhicitta. We hear about bodhicitta, or we say this lama is a bodhisattva, he's Vajradhara. But then we also have to actually cultivate it ourselves. We need to cultivate compassion and love. That thing that we always talk about. So we need to actually keep these words in mind. When the Guru says cultivate compassion, you also have to keep that in mind and really on a daily basis make an effort to really cultivate that. So for example, in the morning when you wake up, when you first get up, think a little bit about impermanence. Then the mind will turn toward the Dharma. And then if you think a little bit also about all the trouble in samsara, then the Dharma will become the path. And then if you think that today I will not just think about my own happiness, because just as, for example, I don't want to suffer, also others don't want to suffer. It's just like I want to be happy, also others want to be happy. So at least if I'm not able to benefit others, at least I will not harm them. So if you have this pure motivation, then already your confusion is cleared away. So then already on that day, your mind has turned toward the Dharma, and the Dharma has become the path, and the path clears away confusion. So it is said that when the main thing that clears away the confusion on the path is bodhicitta. And so that is why we train the mind in bodhicitta.
어떤데? 하버도 benang aransondo 진하다. 단대기 투순되는 상하 dorjitebe 추리베 잡침모지 다르되게 여러와 대인도사는 아란소 상하 라메기 왕 망보슈기요레 티 망보슈기요레 드는 라든데야 공기요와 대인도사네 다든도 탐제기 싸왕마한테 잔축했으면 송도와 지된 송공게 라금도잖아요. 장축성게 장숙대 라인나발 샹도와지 고요와 때마도 다 생각조지 라포도모 검대와 되게 지남주야 데스칼레 카보와 대인도자네 라마양 검베가수 장축성게 장숙인바 공고요레 예담게 라지곰나야 장축성게 장숙인바지 공고요레 대인도자네 문에드네지 라버도 상한양내 챙겐라 답에 매드모와 장축성게 지 차용고요사레 어떤데 인도자네 lam truba sevegi nyamnede pe keche shuji chadi yores.
And especially nowadays, in these times, the Vajrayana teachings of secret mantra widely spread. And we have received many empowerments of the secret mantra, the highest secret mantra. And we have received many instructions, and we practice the deities. the root of all this practice is bodhicitta. Also, Lord Chitin Sumgön had said, even if you practice a deity has to arise from bodhicitta. It has to be a manifestation of bodhicitta. It is unlikely that one will accomplish a deity just by merely visualizing the form of any male or female deity. But the deity has to arise from bodhicitta. And also when we meditate on the guru, we see the guru is an embodiment of bodhicitta. And when you meditate on the yidam, then the yidam is an embodiment of bodhicitta. And especially in the practice of secret mantra of the Vajrayana, bodhicitta is really indispensable. So it is really the most important practice when it comes to clearing away confusion on the path.
Tene dandande da danda te pardu jibu sungde lamgirimba saya te zo china sungbarwa. Da tene chuba yi shuzun charwa sungyo zane tene zo chaja chenbyo tene lam da te sungyo yorwa. Tene indu zane da di gabgin chuba sungyande da ngarang zoge namjun samlo tangwa tsangman chuba sungyo yorwa. Ji chirune chur zu da 다 너용게 주 간대지 나랑서로 샤와 있나요. 나랑서게 섬게나라 지 초와 대두당 삼론 잠만다 간대지 샤와 있나요. 다 대탐제라 지나 남도 출와 송거와 다 된대게 남도게 드는 안서 가서 우리 징루요데 주와 대게 안서 담루요데 라와메 바존루요레 녀몽베 샹와나 준루요레 어디나 센터 tene da nyamong be xiang wala chundu du zane len jamanda sa yung yorwa len jamanda sa yung du zane tene ba tene yin du zane da ngarang zogen chulwa tan zo changma de yexie ge rang xin la shartu wa ji gu re sene de song ge re dan chulwa yexie zun charwa song du zane zo kare song ge re sena bena tanda la len sob de men la song ge yorwa 제들 나완데다 랑게 semni dune 주변 타당 잘 대니신의 송진 세만은 예레메지 저세라니 송용구와 다 뒤튼다 대당 지버 송용구요래 차신기 람게름 바 송용도 자네 당보 나와 탐제 섬기드네 지금 준하인바 드네 장보진 나와 있나요 말아서 섬 다베게 나와 있바 년바진 나와 있나요 섬 마다베 나와 있바 대인도 자네 치르는 주르장에 간지지 샤로 용와 있나요 내도 간지지 용용와 있나요 탐지에 대해 말아서 섬게 나와 바식 섬게 된게 다 바찬점의 사용도 자네 대도는 năng 되게 요 같은데 인자 제가 나와한테다 랑게 샘스는 송거요와 근데 대인도 자네 치르게 나와 탐지 고랑신도 마주봐 근데 양지 난경게 샘 고랑야 간지지에 생도 자네 근데 심리 고랑야 뇌는 주바다 차와 송도와 대인도 샘 고랑 주 따윈도 자네 샘게 가도는 데르스네 요 말에 샘게 입는 데지 요르스네 요 말에 샘게 되네 대산 데지는 도스네 요 말에 대인도 샘 고랑데 주데 차자진보 뭐 같은 데지로와 대인도 자네 다 된데지 셴베게 도네 되네 샘니 차자진보 뭐 돌아 냠버자 송아이나 되네 나와 탐제데 차진 거를 존르고 요래 와 대인도 자네 되네 주바 이시순 차와 스네오다 된데지게 도는 순구에 살에
So these were the three levels of three kinds of individuals or capacities. And then the fourth is for this confusion to dawn as wisdom. And so this one here speaks about the path of Mahamudra. And so confusion here in this context is that the way things appear to us and the way we think about things normally. So when various sense objects appear, like we perceive a sound or a sight and so forth, or various feelings arise in the mind, feelings of happiness and sadness and joy and so forth. All of these appearances, whether they are outer or inner, which generate a thought in the mind, a feeling, this is what we call confusion. It's these thoughts that about them that we call confusion. It is these thoughts that tie us down. that is the confusion that binds us, that makes us lose any self-control, that makes us become controlled by the afflictive emotions. And as a result, we commit a lot of karma. So this confusion has to appear as wisdom, as primordial wisdom. So how does it appear as wisdom? In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it says, the way things appear is your own mind. From the beginning, mind's nature is free from the extremes of elaboration. So knowing that, one doesn't engage the mind in subject-object duality. So this really speaks about the levels of Mahamudra. So first we need to see that appearances are the mind. The way things appear that's the confusion of the mind. So when things appear in positive and good things appear to us, and then these are pure states of mind arise, are generated, a pure perception. And when negative things appear, then negative perceptions arise within one's mind. So in brief, it is the various things that appear, positive or negative, which generate various mental experiences, mental perceptions. So these are the appearances of the mind, or the way we perceive things. Everything is just our own perception, whether it's an outer appearance or an inner experience. And it is whatever appears, whatever is perceived, is the appearance of our karmic imprints that we have accumulated, then manifesting as the appearance. So all of these appearances are one's own mind. Even though they appear, they lack any inherent existence. And then what about the one to whom they appear, the mind who perceives these appearances? So the mind is primordially free from the extremes of elaboration. That means that you can't say that the mind has this kind of color, or it has this kind of shape, or it is in this kind of location. It is beyond any of such designations. And so this freedom from elaboration is the essence of Mahamudra. And if one then rests within that state and in equipoise on the basis of knowing that, then all the appearances, all the perceptions then become liberated into the nature of Mahamudra. And so this is the appearing of confusion arising or appearing as wisdom.
근데 인도잖아. 더 저 주로이 시즌 차로 써야 돼. 다 자자 침벽이 드네 뭐 주스나인다. 차생게 내술든지 소용이 되잖아요. 남자 준도 당가랑 속에 제 정부의 신호 군도네 이나에 디나진도 드네 접진 가치는 뭐지 군도네 다 대인도가 차친 강가말라서다 망보 슈구요로와 대인도 자네들이 지 공남배 투주라 차자침부 또바데 요연도 자네 근데 공남배에 송바데 당 원에지 냠뇽랑 게 돈을 송제 봐 인도 자네 근데 지 텐서기 다지 송주난신 지는 줘야 돼 개침부지래 다 단당엔데나 지 주와 이슈선 차와서야 되고는 돌두지든데 지 슈와인 대인도 다 텐서제데 조 냠뇽제랑 또바지게 돈은 로고야 근데 지 인도 자네 등에 단단한 메시지 자침보다 망보지 should attend mendu tin dan do do zamji what in the jeans.
So this confusion appearing as wisdom is really an introduction to Mahamudra. It is speaking of the nature of Mahamudra. And so normally we have received many instructions on Mahamudra by His Holiness Vishnu Filling Jewel Tetsan Rinpoche, and also His Eminence Gyaltsen Rinpoche. For example, we have received many teachings on the Ganges, Mahamudra, and so on. And the way they teach Mahamudra, it really comes from a place of their own experience of Mahamudra, of having realized Mahamudra. So the teachings really are based on a personal direct experience. So therefore, it is also important that we follow these teachings. So this in brief is the appearing of confusion as wisdom. And so mainly that is related to a realization arising from practice. And so because of that, I'm not going to go into much vast detail on that, since it is basically related to practice and realization. So I will keep it brief.
What did you that in the around the terrain or part of it in the children that doing chene, then Yami Gampopa Sumbe, then the Tabu Chuji say that in the Shendo doing the Jigtone, Motor in the G, Shuain, the design of the Jigatone, then Yachin about this G, or Pentot in the G, or Chung Yubek is about the G, Jidan Zavich and the G, Dang Shuji, or Nyamland, then Yaji Tensotola, Kanjitola. tendeji awishirachi menkenji re ngarang ngone tendu tene yaji miksegi tene yang nyamnyong re miksegi ko sawa tende jigchena te tu yuji mare ta ina ya kandar ngarang ngone tene terengi ji tuchen sangbon de dun chene andra samban number ta wa ji thone ta ji churo number la ngemban ro se gona yanda kandar ji chugi jimba se la gona yanda tende do duji shuwa tende ji tene tupen sowe ge rewa tende ji shuyus.
So since today is the commemoration of Pamudrupa's Parinibbana, I gave this explanation on the four Dhammas of Gampopa, and I in brief, and I really hope that you benefited from it. And so I personally am not someone that has a lot of practice and experience and so on, but I really so maybe because of that, maybe I cannot I'm unable to maybe not give you like this vast experience, but at least maybe you can maybe you have gained some benefit and some experience through understanding the meaning. And so now together with this on this special day where we commemorate the Parinibbana, I'm really with a pure intention for all of you, made this like a gift of Dharma to you, or you can call it a generosity of Dharma. So therefore, I really sincerely hope that it has some benefited your minds.
Tene chedan namje tangarang ji chu shidu zane karisana ngege tene taji lama geweshini pechi nishu zadanji tenyong yorda. Di nane yang labardo tene jamgun yishinu garchin dorjin chang tene lamchen jarbor moida tanzu ngarang zawe lama zogo che tene ji de indu zane kandaraji lama den namge tujula yobege toba 당 첸랍 다 텐소당 드린 텐소게지 가딘당 제와 첨부 돈행할 송주 담배 취 상보인데 뭐뭐 낭용 텐도 텐소 두주게 또바당 젤랍 텐소게 드린 야지 나랑 경원에 삼반 남다지게 돈을 봐 시 이자와이나 드린 라마 텐소게 젤랍게 돈에 드린 제나 데스펜도 첨부로 지금 용제에서 남주 드린 삼규 대인도 자는 달래양 드린 제나 뭐 상마라 드린 라마 공마 텐소게 두주게 또베 젤랍 조야게 되는 마람 오다 트레지 슈유스.
So I personally have probably relied upon 20 or more lamas, spiritual teachers, but among them, and say that my actual root gurus are really His Holiness Gyaltsen Rinpoche and Eminence Gyaltsen Rinpoche, Svajadhara, and also Lamchen Gyalpo Rinpoche. So it is really due to their compassion and their minds and their blessings. Then on the basis of that, I really have received their blessings due to their kindness. So it is with their love and their kindness that I have received many really profound teachings from them. And now I feel that if having received their blessings coming from their compassionate minds, and then myself giving teachings with a pure intention. I do think that, through the blessings of the gurus, then what I say then can also benefit others. And so mainly it is due to the compassionate blessings of the guru. So I pray that you will all be immersed in the compassionate blessings of the past gurus.
내가 대한 게 주된데 살아인 텐데 내 줄라 만남도도 지금 송.
So then we so today's class is finished, and so now we will conclude with a brief dedication prayers.
소남데 탐제세바니 톰네 니베 다나 밤제데 제가 난제 발론 주바이 세벤 손렌 조완 조월 쇼 라마 공가마 상와라 소르완데 조당 구제랑 와라 소르완데 젤레 다르젠 제브라 소르완데 라마단 저와 메브라 신제로 잠베 암바웨 제드란 젬바당 군도 상보 대양 대신 대다 군제 제서 달로 저랑게완다다 탐제럽도 산제 고존 예베 찬라 주님 민주를 덤베 찬라다 근데 메친드베 찬라 제드랑을 젬하나 좀버쇼 다다 영건데 탐진제 되좀더 성바 예배 개베 자완데 다다 심제 탐제 뉴르도 라나메 양다브라 조베 장주름본제 도브란주제 시자군제 군첸 주제제 던드네라 완도엔드고 렌첸버제 덴바즌데 버 시주 투섬 곰벤젠주엔제 전주에 선주에 렘보이지 마제 바나에 제주르제 제바야 냠바야 메바야 고네 곤도 페월쇼 나소.
Thank you so much.
See you all in the future.
Thank you so much, Angela. Let me stop the interpretation room.
Thank you so much, Khenchen Rinpoche. That was very precious teaching. Thank you, the whole team, and thank you all the translator too. Thank you, every participant as well from all over the world.
Everyone. Thank you so much, Ina. See you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.